Olani, we're getting complaints from a lot of sources. In particular, we're getting complaints from parents. We're getting complaints from the Department of Education, who receive these complaints from whatever source. If I could indicate to the viewers, in terms of the statistics of last year, between April 1 and January 10 of this year, we received about 91 reported cases of sexual relations between teachers and learners. And of the 91 cases that we received, which were reported to SAYS, council dealt with these cases, and 56 of those educators were struck off the roll, meaning those teachers cannot be part of the teaching profession. They cannot be allowed to teach our learners because their conduct has been detrimental to the profession. But also indicate that as I speak to you now, we have received more 50 new cases that have been reported to council, for which we are busy conducting investigations and most probably would be dealing with disciplinary hearings in this regard in due course.
So the 50 new cases are between January and now?
The 50 cases are between January and to date.
In a matter of 3 months, you've had 50 new cases of teachers having relations with schoolgirls.
That is correct. And I think that should be attributed to the fact that society is becoming aware that these cases need to be reported.
In terms of the investigations, how do you investigate this? What do you do?
In actual fact, on receipt of the complaint at the office, we then set up a team of investigators to go out and investigate the reality or the truthfulness of the complaint that we've received. And that team of investigators then would come back to the ethics committee to report on their findings, for the ethics committee to be able to take a decision whether we need to go forward with charging the teacher, with conducting disciplinary hearings. But this team of investigators, normally what we do, we visit the school, conduct on-site investigation, interview all relevant parties who may be affected by such a report.
Now, between April and March, you've had 141 cases. Of these 141 cases, how many resulted in pregnancies?
I cannot be precise in terms of how many resulted in pregnancy, because the basis of our argument is that before it even leads to pregnancy, Kolani, the fact of the matter that relationship that exists between the teacher and a learner is an improper kind of relationship. And therefore, we cannot be at this stage be able to say to yourselves that these are the number of kids that got impregnated through these relationships. And we need to indicate that we're just talking about cases that have been brought to our attention.
And your sense is that there may be more cases?
My sense, Tolan, is that with communities and the problems that we may be able to raise later in this show, is that these cases are in existence out there. And it's only that there is lack of bravery on the part of society to come up to the fore and break the silence on these matters and be able to report them so that we deal with them holistically once and for all.
But let me ask you about the teachers when they come before SAYS. Is there anything that they tell you that you may tell us that may assist us in understanding why they end up engaging in these kind of relationships?
In most cases, Kolani, people who come before us would deny these allegations, but on the basis of proof and evidence that gets provided, we then get to punish them one way or the other. The sense that we are getting is that there is nothing coming out clearly on the part of teachers to say what could be the reason for teachers doing these things. But in some instances, I remember one teacher was saying, these kids are of my same age, they are my peer group. But council was adamant to say, for the mere fact that we have taken teaching as a profession, it can't be correct for a teacher to have a relationship with a learner. And therefore, all I can say is that nothing clearly comes out of teachers to say, what could be the reasons, why are they practicing this kind of activities, and so on and so on.
Now, the issue of the same age and the age group that you've just raised then takes this matter up to the issue of statutory rape. Are there some teachers who are, by virtue of the fact that they sleep with children younger than, I think, 16, are then charged with statutory rape?
That's for sure. Because we then look at the situation as says where here is a teacher who's having a sexual relationship with a learner. We deal with our own processes in that regard. But where it borders on statutory rape, then the law enforcement agencies of our land are then brought into the picture so that they could then deal with the processes going forward. Because you are correct that we have situations where some teachers would sleep with kids as young as 14, 13 years old, and that is statutory rape. And therefore, we then report such matters to the law enforcement agencies so that they can deal with their own processes.
Let me bring in Matakanya here with me in studio. From the Association of School Governing Bodies point of view, what is your take on this, which obviously seems a terrible thing?
Kolani, good morning once again. Let me also greet the South Africans. It's really a shame. It's a shame in the sense that we thought these things could have been happening. And I believe these things are happening among the poor and the working class schools. And we thought that after 1994, these things would have diminished. But apparently they are still persisting. Hence, we say it's a shame. A National Association of School Governing Bodies really, with strongest term, condemns this type of activities. In the sense that teachers are seen by the common law as loco parentis. Loco parentis simply means that teachers are parents to these children from as early as 7 o'clock up until the time these children have to go back home. So they are local parentis in that fashion. So I don't see the reason behind this that you entrust these children with the parents during the day. And these parents during the day, they abuse these very children. It's a shame. It's a shame. I think it's a shame. And the system, I think the system in this instance does not work properly. I don't believe then in the Educator Employment Act there is any section that gives them the right to do what they are doing. And also there is a section that talks about the misconduct. And I believe that's the area where it has to be strengthened. But Comrade Temba has just indicated here that South African Council of Educators regulate the behavior of teachers and regulate the profession. Now, I really don't understand why up to this time, then we are still discussing the question of sexual harassment done by adults to our children. So we are just calling upon, I think what will save this situation is parents. Parents must rise up. Rise up and deal with the situation, because really we have got system in this country, but those systems are no more working.
All right, I have a lot of SMSs that have come through here. I'm going to read these in a second, but I need to get a view first from Ms. Dwane. Maybe I should let me read one or two SMSs before I get your comment here, Ms. Dwane, because somebody says it would be interesting to know how many of these cases involve white or Indian girls or teachers. There's also another one that says if a teacher principal hurt my child, then the police will come and arrest me for murder. There's an SMS as well that says learners must stop wearing mini uniforms, stop seducing teachers because it is very hard to resist, says an SMS. There is somebody else who says this has been happening for some 40 years now. Nothing is being done. I'm actually a product of that. And then another SMS that says what bet that it is all happening in all black schools. Your comment here, Ms. Dwane?
It is happening in black schools, and it does happen in Indian and white schools as well. And it is a particular kind of a man or a woman that will do such a thing. And it is not your ordinary teacher who cares for kids and who's a human being that is a father figure, for example, a mother figure. It is someone who is, in a way, who is going to repeatedly do this, and even if you is being moved from one school to the next, they are going to continue. And the solution is to remove them completely out of schools. And we feel that there are cases that are being investigated. It takes long for those cases to be investigated, and you sometimes don't even know what is happening. But meanwhile, those teachers are still continuing teaching at schools, and as communities we don't see any movement. And I feel that it is when communities are going to be angry and frustrated and probably take the law into their hands if they don't see action from the part of the department and also from the part of the law enforcement. And there has been cases, and we believe that it is wrong for teachers, and it doesn't matter if a teacher is of the same age as the learner or closer to the age of the learner. The real problem, let alone the statutory rape, the other problem that is really wrong about teachers being involved with learners is the issue of the abuse of power. And in those cases, in some cases, teachers offer learners marks in exchange for sex, or in exchange of entering into a relationship. But there are cases where in poor rural areas, communities don't feel that it is completely wrong for someone to have a relationship with an older man or an older a person who works or who earns money, because it is something that is going to be a source of income. And we want to say to communities that is completely wrong.
Yeah.
And I mean, teachers that do this and parents that help teachers to do this must be punished as well.